As a combat photographer, my job was to go in the area of operation where I was sent to document day-to-day operations, combat operations. So whether that's a civil affairs school opening or going with the infantry to knock some doors in and find some bad guys. In February of 2004, I was on a civil affairs assignment to document the grand reopening of an elementary school in Baghdad. And there was a roadside bomb that had been planted in wait when they started the construction, and as we were pulling away, the bomb exploded and I sustained a traumatic brain injury and cervical spine trauma. I came back to combat camera voluntarily, went to the Horn of Africa, came home from that, went to Lebanon, came home from that, went on the road quite a bit until I found myself back in Iraq again during the surge. I was hit by another roadside bomb, which aggravated my existing condition. And one night we were ambushed. I was going out to recover a downed soldier, got pulled off my feet, and that was the end of my career. I'd grown up in the military. I was 17 when I enlisted. So when my service came to an abrupt end, I really did not see that coming, and it did not pan out the way I wanted to. And being stubborn and not wanting to ask for help, I kind of closed in, and even to the extent of in some ways alienating my husband and my friends and my family. And that really was detrimental to my own well-being and recuperation from the physical injuries and the mental health and mental healing that I needed to do, spiritual healing. Without addressing emotional traumas, you cannot fully heal your physical traumas. I think you kind of get stuck in what I like to call the drain, and you circle and you circle and you circle. Suicide was an option for me. It was something I thought about almost every minute of every day in those dark times. I couldn't ride horses anymore. I couldn't do photography anymore because I couldn't stand for prolonged periods of time. I couldn't lift a camera. I couldn't lift anything over 5 pounds for that matter. And things were never going to be the same for me. And so I laid on the couch, I took the drugs they gave me, and I circled the drain. I set this crazy goal that I would photograph veterans in every state and tell their stories, thinking that it would be a lifetime goal, that suicide would not be an option so long as I would stay very, very busy. I started taking portraits and telling stories of all the veterans at my VA. It became cathartic for me because in talking to Vietnam veterans, Korean veterans, World War II veterans, even people from my own generation, they were validating the emotions I was feeling, because for so long I had isolated myself and I didn't want to volunteer all the things that were going through my mind and how I felt. But the great thing was the Veterans Portrait Project, which evolved from that very moment of darkness, gave me a sense of purpose, and I was suddenly not focusing on the pain or all the things the doctors were telling me I couldn't do, because I was photographing again in spite of what they said. And instead of riding my horse, I was hitching them to a wagon and driving them. So I wasn't about to give up my horses either, and life was looking good. I was home from one of my trips with my husband. We were driving to the grocery store. I felt really dizzy and kind of sick, and I asked him to pull over, and then I woke up in an ambulance. And I had my first grand mal seizure. That was the point I knew I needed to finally ask for help. I was at a VFW convention, and I met Joe Worley and his service dog Benjamin from America's Pet Dogs. I started talking to him about some of the problems that I was facing and the struggles. He's like, well, you should apply for a service dog. I worked really, really hard to hide all the things that were going on with me, all of my limitations, because I never wanted to be doted over. I didn't want anybody to be like, oh man, she can't do that. Let me do that for you. The moment I had a dog at my side, that was like a walking billboard saying, there's something wrong here. And I was suddenly wearing my limitations on my sleeve. It was tough in those first few days after Charlie was paired with me. I didn't know the tasks that Charlie would be doing or performing to help support me in my daily life.
Let's go. Yes.
Charlie changed my life significantly, but also those around me who I'd been leaning heavily on, including my husband. And I think it's strengthened our marriage because being a caregiver can be very challenging, and it's taxing and tasking, and I didn't realize just how much I relied on him. And I think Bringing Charlie into the mix allowed him an opportunity to step back and be my husband and not my caregiver. As a professional photographer, it's often a strange thing to tell your clients that you have a service dog. And the one thing I try to reinforce to my clients is Charlie is an extension of me. Surely he's my beloved dog, but he is also a medical implement, a needed medical implement. And just as somebody may need insulin as a diabetic or may need, a prosthetic as an amputee, Charlie is my prosthetic. And I think once people see Charlie in action alongside me behind the camera, they realize just how incredibly well trained he is, how in tune he is with me, and he genuinely is an extension of who I am.
Great. Up. Yep. Off. Charlie, push. Yes.
Having Charlie at my Veterans Portrait Project shoots has definitely, I think, opened up veterans to the idea of service dogs and just what they do. There are times where unprompted or unsolicited, Charlie will stand up and walk over to a veteran and put his head in their lap. And just know that that is exactly what they need in that moment. And I can't teach that to him. I never trained him for that. And the minute he puts his head in their lap, you can just see this physical change. Each veteran is an individual. And there is no one blanket pill that is going to be the cure or the elixir to everyone's ails. Some may benefit from service dogs, others may benefit from other alternatives, whether that be medication or talk therapy or the other myriad of approaches. All I know is that I tried a litany of different therapies and none were as successful as Charlie has been to me. And I would encourage veterans to seek help and healing, regardless of what path that is. Service dog worked for me. But no matter what, bottom line is I want the veterans to know that they're not alone. It's up to the veteran to find how to get that best life they can. And to know that there are support networks out there that will help get them to that point. Having a service dog is like having a battle buddy.